Max Connors dreamed of a beautiful wedding. The previous dozen weddings didn't count. This time she was really marrying for love. Only it wasn't her fiancé, Dean Cumanno, she loved. It was his money. Her feelings for the green paper were so strong that she even gave Dean a different name of hers. When the ceremony was over and the newlyweds went to their love bed, Dean hurried as fast as he could. He had held himself back for months and didn't have any affairs, because Max wouldn't allow to be touched until after the wedding. But once they were in bed, Max fell asleep. In the morning, they tried to rekindle their passion again, but Max threw up at the wrong time and it all fell apart. So Dean came to work hyped up and hungry for a woman's affection. And then, as if out of spite, the seductive beauty Paige began to wiggle her hips in front of his face. Dean held on as long as he could and then he attacked her. Paige's hair got caught in the zipper of Dean's pants and that's how Max caught them. There was no limit to her grief. The only thing that could fill the void was the $300,000 and the Mercedes Dean was going to give her after the wedding. Max had a good lawyer and a perfectly drafted prenuptial agreement. As a result, she got everything she wanted. When she stopped at the gas station, Paige pulled up. And that's when it turned out she was Max's daughter. Together, the two of them run scams like this to make money. But Paige already considers herself an adult and wants to start her own business of swindling rich people. However, Max is not going to part with her daughter. When they go to the bank to cash their earnings, they are told that the account has been arrested by the tax authorities. A representative of the tax service shows up and informs them that Max has a large debt. If she does not pay it in the next 90 days, she will go to jail. To make some money, Paige offers to scam some rich guy in an upscale neighborhood. Then they can make enough money to last the rest of their lives. Mother and daughter arrive in Palm Beach and check into a hotel, pretending that Paige slipped on the wet floor and hurt her ribs. Then they go on a little cruise along the villas to pick their next victim. This is a billionaire, William Tansey. Max likes this old guy because he is at death's door. The main thing is to hit on him before he plays the box. Meanwhile, Dean can't get his ex-wife out of his head. He feels bad without her and he doesn't like it. He finds out where Max is staying and goes to deal with her. Max and Paige argue over Tansey's candidacy, and Max wins the argument. They make a plan to catch him in their net, but Paige gets distracted. She wants to show herself in action and goes after the second candidate, expecting to get him. At this time, Max participates in an auction disguised as a Russian immigrant to get Tansey's attention. During the bidding, he fails to make a bid, and Max buys the statue that he was going to buy. However, she arranges for the workers to break off the most protruding part of the statue to refuse to buy it. Paige follows her potential victim to a bar on the coast. Here she meets Jack, who introduces himself as the bartender, and their relationship doesn't work out. Paige realizes that she is not at her best. She tries to seduce the millionaire who came with his mommy by pretending to choke, but he doesn't notice her. Then she actually chokes, and Jack comes to the rescue. The olive, lodged in the airway, flies out and hits the millionaire right in the eye. He leaves in tears. Paige has to hurry too because she has to put spikes in the road so that Tansey gets a flat tire and she and Max can get acquainted. But that's bad luck too. The rope that takes the spikes away tears, and Jack rides over them instead of Tansey. He goes after Paige to return her purse. Paige notices Tansey and drops Jack in the ravine. The billionaire, followed by Max, gets into an accident. Max drives him away in his car, and Paige distracts Jack the whole time. Because of all the commotion, she never picks up her purse, so she has to drag herself to Jack's bar the next day. Here she is rude to him, and then she finds out that he owns the bar and that he is being given $3 million for the place, but Jack won't agree to sell it. Paige realizes that she can easily charm this simpleton and prove to her mother that she can pull off scams without her help. Meanwhile, Max gains Tansey's trust, and he invites her to dinner. But when she arrives at his house, Miss Madress, the bitchy housekeeper, opens the door. She immediately becomes Max's #1 enemy because she can ruin Max's entire plan. She and Tansey go to a Russian restaurant where Spider-Man's landlord works. He tries to speak to Max in Russian, but she doesn't understand a word. She has to pay him not to tell Tansey anything. Max wants to get him out of here, but then she is called on stage to sing a Russian song. Max has to twist things around so that Tansey doesn't notice the trick. At this time, Paige tracks Jack down and follows him to the beach. Here he is admiring the stars, but not the ones resting on yachts, but the ones in the sky. A spark flashes between them, the romantic setting takes effect, and they are already kissing lying on the plaid. However, Paige quickly runs off to get back before her mother arrives. Max notices the dirt on her skin and begins to suspect something. But she doesn't have time for Paige. She has to make out with Tansey. And he wants to prove himself a cavalier and gives the overseas guest a lighter. In return, he wants a passionate kiss from Max, and she gives him this wonderful moment filled with tobacco smoke and the taste of old age. When Tansy leaves, Max begins to spit, and the housekeeper sees this. She immediately figures Max out and wants to send her away, but she takes the initiative and frames Madress. Max makes it look like the housekeeper tried to steal from Tansy, and he turns her into the cops. Now he needs a new housekeeper, and Max brings Paige in for an interview. She's in a hurry to get a date with Jack, so she goes straight to bodily contact and gets the job. Max decides to check on her daughter and goes to pick her up after the interview. She sees Paige making out with Jack and realizes that she is head over heels in love with the guy, which means she needs to be rescued. Max forces her daughter to break up with Jack. Paige resists, but then she realizes that she herself has a soft spot for this guy and dumps him. After that, Max met that woman from the tax service, and it turned out she was her mentor. They purposely pulled that scam at the bank to get Paige to go on another case. In the evening, Max has a date with Tansy, and he drops by her room with that statue Max wanted to buy. He paid for the repair of the causal area and gave the statue to his lover. Max pretended to be delighted, and then pampered Tansy by telling her that she would be deported. Only marriage could save her. Tansy proposed to her and then wanted to celebrate in bed, but it didn't work out. He coughed, collapsed on the floor, snapped his head off the statue's junk, and choked on it. Max tried to revive him, but it didn't work. She called her daughter, and together they tried to take the body to Tansy's house and make it look like he died there. But the corpse was accidentally dropped out the window, and as mom and daughter were going down to get it, Dean showed up. He proposed to Max again, and she had to say yes. She left her ex-husband to be in the room tied up and went to Tansy's. Dean freed himself with the help of the maid, found the billionaire's wallet, and went to his house too. That's when it became clear that his rival was no longer alive. However, there was more interesting news. Dean found out he'd been conned, and Paige was Max's daughter. He wanted to turn them into the police, but then he changed his mind. Max offered to give him back the money she took after the divorce. Dean agrees. He gets rid of the corpse, and the three of them drive to the bank. On the way, Max tells her daughter that she and that lady from the tax service tricked her, and they actually have the money. But at the bank, it turns out that Max's mentor really ripped her off. To get even with Dean, they have to run a scam on Jack. Paige comes to him, and on the same day, Jack agrees to marry her. But here, her conscience is inflamed, and she tries to give up the idea, especially since the buyer of the bar has already found another project. Dean and Max persuade her to go all the way. The wedding took place, Paige pretended to be asleep after the ceremony, and Max lured Jack back to her place. She tried to seduce him, but it didn't work. He really loved Paige. Then she slipped a drug in his glass, and when Paige came over, it looked like Jack had cheated on her. That was the day she stopped believing every man on the planet. Her heart was broken. Jack handed over his bar to the bank and got money for it. $1.5 million he gave to Paige. Dean, however, didn't take a dime of that amount when he found out that Max had set Jack up. He was disgusted to touch the money obtained that way. Max realized that she had made a terrible mistake. She told Paige the truth, and her daughter forgave her. Then Max came to Dean to finally give him his first wedding night. Meanwhile, Paige went to the bank and repossessed the bar to Jack. She brought him the paperwork and told him the whole truth about herself. Jack agreed to take her back. But for Max and Dean, the adventure wasn't over. Max still wanted revenge on her mentor for stealing her money, and Dean volunteered to help her. And judging by Max's satisfied face, they would get the stolen back with interest. And that's where the movie ends. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to watch more movie recaps videos like this.